Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Today's webinar will be about transforming movie characters into amazing toys using Clip Studio Paint, presented by Marcelo Matere. Before we begin the webinar, there are some housekeeping items. The webinar will be approximately 1 hour long. All attendees will be muted. There will be a Q&A session during the last 15 minutes of the webinar. There's a chat box, but if you want to interact with us, use the question panel. Use the question panel to send your questions, and we'll be trying to answer them all at the end of the webinar. This webinar will be recorded, and the recording will be shared on social media and also via email to all registrants and attendees. The panelists for this webinar are Mario Quiñones, myself, and Marcelo Matere. For those of you who connect with us for the very first time, Clip Studio Paint is your all-in-one solution for stunning, ready-to-publish illustrations, comics, manga, and animations. Learn more at clipstudio.net/and graphicsly.com. Also, we invite you to share Instagram stories tagging us as #webinar at Marcelo Matere, at Graphicsly, at Wacom, and at Clip Studio Official. We'll be sharing your stories if you tag us. Marcelo Matere has a dream job. He draws giant robots for toys, video games, and comics. He works with big companies like Disney, Hasbro, and Marvel, creating art for Transformer toys and designing toys for franchises like Star Wars and Marvel. He has also designed characters for Disney's animation Penn Zero, Part-Time Zero, and games like Transformers War of Cybertron. Besides that, he illustrated children's book toys about Transformers and Iron Man. Currently, he's responsible for penciling the robots and background packaging art for Hasbro Transformers Studio Series 86, based on the beloved 1986 Transformers, the movie animated cartoon. So with that, I will leave you with Marcelo and his presentation, transforming movie characters into amazing toys using Clip Studio Paint. Thank you so much.
Hello guys, how's it going? Thanks Mario, thanks Clip Studio for. Hello guys, how's it going? Thanks Mario, thanks Clip Studio for this opportunity to share a little bit of my artwork and how is my process to do concepts for toys, and also these concepts this can use by video games as well. So yeah, just a real recap of my career. My name is Marcelo Matere. I'm an illustrator, concept artist with over almost 2 decades of working with big companies. I started as illustrator, and then I moved as concept artist. So I started doing packaging for toys like Transformers, and then I had to work on a bunch of different illustrations, so interact with different characters. So yeah, this is the kind of illustrations that you can do with Clip Studio. Sometimes I use a lot to work on those. Like I also enjoyed like Clip Studio, like for example, this I also do comics. So this comic was entirely done with Clip Studio at that time. That I work on this well, like the pencil artwork, the inkjet artwork. So it's entirely digital. So that's another thing, like how the tools help me a lot to do all this kind of works. This one as well. So like also had a chance to work as concept artist. So for toys, like I moved from packaging design to concept art because I had a background as a concept artist. So the guys ended up, the designers in the team ended up sending me this kind of stuff. So here you can see on a sample of how to draw characters that will send to the sculptors, to 3D sculptors. So what kind of details are needed, what kind of views. So that's what we're gonna talk about on this webinar. This is another example, like how the 2D inputs that I do, sometimes I need to color it all, they turn into a 3D toy. You have some adjustments, like for the designer, sometimes the designer for the line they need to do, like for put electronics or other parts that need to move, so the mechanicals. So like So that's the things that I need to be aware when we design the toys sometimes. So that's what I'm gonna talk about. Another example, like, pardon, from the toy based on the movies. So like the kind of thing that I need to do. This for a Star Wars, like sometimes I don't need to do the likeness really close, especially nowadays because they need to scan the characters, but I still need to put some of the details at that time. So they ended up doing this with this input. These are concepts for video games. Another one that I use. So that's all those like some of the steps they're gonna talk here apply on those work. So yeah, let's do the fun part now. Let's draw and see how I usually create robot stuff or like character stuff. Like the first thing to create a toy based on a movie character, like sometimes we usually work with a toy designer. So the toy designer, like for the line, work with marketing and all the team, they already have like a targeting for us. So if they have the targeting, for example, let's say kids age 3 to 6. So they usually send me a reference. Hey, Marcelo, we need to do this kind of character, but the movie we need to do this one. He's gonna have this feature. Feature when you say for toys would be like what this toy is gonna be. For example, he's gonna blast. He's gonna shoot a projectile, or he's gonna move some parts. So these are the features or he's gonna speak. So that's the kind of things that the designer needs to figure out when he sends stuff for us for reference. So what after after the targets defined, I usually like to find for reference. So reference, try to find like, for example, a cartoon that has this kind of range, like targeting for like, I don't know, 3 to 6. So I try to grab like some reference and then figure out like, okay, these are good for proportions. I mean, for proportions, like proportions when I say like the size of the head in comparison with the body, like because when you get the reference for the movie, they're really different from the reference for the targeting. I'm gonna, for example, I'm gonna show later on. Like the another thing is adjust the design from the movie to these proportions that you have figured out already. So like then you need to figure out from the character what are the main parts that are recognizable for the character, and adjust them to the proportions that you get from the targeting. And after that, adjust the design. Like always, you have to keep in mind articulation. Sometimes at this stage, the designer he just tell us, okay, Marcelo, don't just take care of the 5-point articulations, like shoulders, hips, and head, and then we can figure it out from there. Or sometimes they say, oh, we're gonna have articulation on the elbow, so be aware to design on that way. Usually, for this kind of age kids, they don't have much more articulation than that. So let's presume this is the age. And then after we have those informations from the designers, then I create some options like for them to figure out. And then once this one of those options are approved, I'm gonna move to the views. So like for example, we define the target, and then we have the references here. For example, I have the character reference here, like Bumblebee. I choose Bumblebee like I'm gonna talk about Transformers because I don't know if you guys are aware, but Transformers make 4th anniversary this year, so a little bit homage for them. Say I have birthday, so yeah. I try to choose a Bumblebee because this design is really intricate. You have a lot of details that you need to simplify in order to work for the objective, so for the final product. So then after I grab the reference, sometimes they are sent by the clients. And then I grab a reference for the targeting to get the figured proportions so for the similar products. So sometimes they are delivered by the client, like for example, like sometimes like Hasbro said, hey, Marcelo, we want a more like this kind of the bumblebee one, like this is the target that we're looking for, or like this one, or sometimes we try to do something between this one and the Spider-Man, so you can play around with some proportions, and then say, okay, so after I have those two informations, I'll usually move to the first sketch. So what do I usually do? I usually like to play around with some proportions. Like you see, like I already done some here, but I'm gonna show like how I like to do these ones really fast with Clip Studio. Like that's really one thing that I enjoy doing. Like because it saves a lot of time. That's another thing. Sometimes those jobs that have a really fast turnaround. So I'm gonna use one of the tools that I really enjoy to work with Clip Studio. It's called a symmetrical tool. I think you guys are aware. Like, so if you go on this figure here, like you can find symmetrical ruler. So what I usually do, like you hold Shift, then you draw a straight line vertically, then you start drawing. So like here, for example, like Bumblebee, like I have that. I'm gonna try to grab the main design for Bumblebee, or the main elements that, for example, like the heads, like those doors behind him. So like I'm gonna start to draw some like basic forms here based on the reference. Like for example, if I get that one from Spider-Man, like he has a larger head, so that's and then this one is really loose because I just try to grab the silhouette as well, because that's another thing. I need to figure out if how this design is going to work like as a silhouette. That's not like how it's going to be recognizable as a silhouette, not just as the drawing by itself. Like if you have a good silhouette, that's a design advice. Like if you have a good silhouette, you have a good design. So, and then like try to see how I can break like all those elements. Like Bumblebee usually have like this kind of ears part. It has that jaw. It's a little bit this. And maybe we can play around with the eyes, like larger eyes. So since it's for kids, sometimes we play with expression. Like we try not to do like angry expressions like this, like more happy ones. Or I know, and then like so another part of the Bumblebee where that is recognizable is this ear spot here. You're probably gonna have this door as well. Like so you see like, oh, that's another thing. Like I'm gonna just fix this. Okay, so as you can see here, so if you need to transform, like for example, adjust the scale, you can just use Command T, and then you can adjust the layer as well. So as you can see, like, and you still keep the properties for. So that's a really helpful tool, like especially for this stage, like when you have to design a lot of different, like. And then as you can see, I try to check if the silhouette is good, and then like, okay, let's say that the client choose, oh, Marcelo, we like that Spider-Man one, like that. So after the client say like, I like this one, so that's when I move it to the the views. So like after I'm happy, so I grab this silhouette here, like a lasso. That's another thing good. Like for example, if you're still with the symmetry activated, if you select, he selected symmetry as well. So you copy, then you can go here, and then you can paste here. Okay. And paste here, Command T, and then Then one thing that I did here already, I tried to, that's another good advice that might be helpful. Like I did a really quick sketch just to grab a little bit of proportion, but at the time that I'm doing the final, I grabbed the actual toy and create those guidelines just to see how the proportions are in between the parts, just to try to adjust and see how things go. And then like from here, I probably would start adjusting like, oh, so the head is larger than I thought. So maybe let's do something like this. And then like maybe the arms, like yeah, the arm here. Maybe we can make this handle larger, this hand bigger. Something like this. Yes. You see, like I try to match the reference as close as possible. Thank you. See. Like because there are sometimes, for example, if I show all those, let's say that I show all those silhouettes here for the client, and they say, yeah, you know what, Marcelo, I think we want to go with that reference for Spider-Man. So we want to really the Spider-Man proportion. So go from there. So and then sometimes I can come and they, okay, let's use Spider-Man proportions. So then after I have figured out this, I come up again and then I create another layer. I think that I really like to use in Clip Studio that I think is helpful besides the symmetric, it's using this color layer for drawing. So sometimes like when you click on the, I don't know if you guys are seeing my cursor is on the layer tab. You see on the left side, on the right side, sorry, on the right side there is a blue and white square. If you click there, you turn your layer into that color. You can choose any color that you want here. Like if you go on the effect part here on the top, you can change color to, I don't know, purple or green. I usually like to let blue because this blue is default color, so I'm okay with that. So that's a really good tool, like when I start sketching. For example, I can leave this one here, and this one, and I'm gonna start sketching the proportions that I want to. And then I start doing like, oh, sorry. I'm gonna choose my symmetry tool, go from there, and then that's when I start drawing. So like I'm gonna grab the proportions here and try to match as close as possible, like the key elements from Bumblebee. So the chest, like, so these are really, so those front cars, like try to see how I can fit the front cars here. So like it has a little high hips here, like, you know, the leg, so those small parts on the leg. So the knee is really high. So yeah, then how I can do those. I like these parts here. So this feet. So you see, I try to grab just the at this stage. I just try to figure out the proportions of the parts. I'm not detailed yet. I'm not adding any details. I just grabbing proportions here because then I'm gonna need to send this again for approval. So I just try to figure out the key parts for the character. Like this part, his is a good silhouette part, so I'm probably gonna use here. And his hands are gonna do a really large hands because that's a characteristic for like this age kids, like large hands. I probably need to worry about like some parts, like not to leave worry about the edge. So the edge might be all rounded because this age, like for safety. So like all this edges that are really pointing here, I will need to adjust everything around it as rounded as possible, and the way to still keep the design. So like I'm probably gonna play around this here. And then like for the eyes, that thing that I mentioned, I like to play with the eyes. So I probably would do like the eyes really large, really big, and then like adding the bumblebee design here. So like this horns, like this part here, this cool head. Like I remember once I had to do a kid, I think I had to do a toy for Bumblebee, and I did I did a month for him, and then like the guys, oh, but he's a school, he has a school face, you cannot do that. So like then I remember at that time I worked with the designer, my friend Derek Simonalo, and then he said, hey Marcel, let's try to push that thing, and then ended up work. So I did we were able to make like something like this, like we made like a Bumblebee with the mouth. Like let's say that the licensee did not approve, and then say, okay, let's go back and then do like the original design, like this one. But just like exaggerate some parts that will remind you that's a friendly, kids friend look. Then like maybe I will do this jaw here, because like that's the shape of this head. So I try to emulate this shape as well. And then put here, like then I did design here, like you see, like I try to match as close as possible the reference. Like you still need to work on some parts, but that's like that's a start. Like oh, the doors behind have those doors, so I might add those doors here, but a way that they will work. So yeah, so we had this first pass. I would call this first pass. So like at this stage, I would like I would say I would send this for the client and see, hey, what do you think about it? So he might say, hey, let's adjust some proportions. Let's say that oh, I think his body is too thin. Let's enlarge a little bit more, like this. Oh, another thing that for example, you notice that I tried to select this one because I wanted to move to the side, but you see that he selected both. He selected everything, right? So one thing that I could do here, like when you have on your layer that you have your rule, like the symmetrical ruler, you can go on the top on those three icons and then you can those icons they activate and they deactivate the ruler. So like you have the options for like to snap or and then snap to grid. So I can remove the snap to grid, and then when I select, I can you see like I deactivated the ruler. So like this way I can, for example, adjust just this part here and then transform this selection like that. I'm just gonna make larger, a little bit larger. Because I want a Bumblebee to be more erratic than the Spider-Man. So like, let's see we did these adjustments here. And then, oh, I don't know if I'm going too fast. Like, if you have any questions, you can like, you have a question panel. Mario just let me know about it. So if you have any questions, you can write on the question panel, and then we're gonna answer later on. Then we'll come back to other tools and talk about it again. So yeah, just to keep you guys reminded about that. So okay, let's pretend that this pose was approved by the client, so it's good to go. So what do I do right now? Like for example, I would create since I created I still use those guidelines here that I have here. I'm gonna erase all those things. I like to keep my reference close, so like sometimes I like to leave them around just in case I need to, especially for heads or details. I like to do that. Or sometimes one thing that I do, like, oh, I need to, I'm having like a really hard time to figure out the chest, so I usually just grab the chest and then put around here, like I'll say, oh, let's do this. Then easier for me to play around, like just gravitate the reference here. So, okay, I have this one ready here. I can do again, like I can on this same layer that I have the ruler, I can change the color for the pencil. So I change the color, I reduce, then I create another layer. One thing that it can do that you don't need to create several rulers. You can go here over the ruler. You can go over the ruler on the layer window. You right click and then show in all layers. So like this ruler, from now on, every layer that I created above or below, we can draw like in every different layer use the same ruler. So like I have this, then I can put on another one. So oh, another activate here. So I had been deactivated. So I need to activate the ruler. So every time that I draw on different layers, I use the same ruler as the one that I created on this one. You see, like, and then when you turn off the layer, you turn off the ruler. So like if you don't want to use more, because for example, you do something that is going to be asymmetrical, like I have this leg here, and then I can do just a detail on this side, so I can turn off, and then turn off, and then I create just on this side here, and then I come back, and then I create again. So that's a really helpful tool. So yeah, so for here, I'm going to start drawing Bumblebee, like, see, like, I don't know. And here, like, I start to add all the details that I need, like, to make as close as possible to the reference. So that's because since those are probably licensed products, so you need to keep those in mind. Like you can try to push those designs for kids, like large eyes, but like you need to keep the original design as much as possible. You need to be aware of that, like not create something like that, you know. So I have this big head here. So like for chest, I'm gonna try to block this part here. So yeah, like the arm. Reference. So you see, like then another thing that I like to do, for example, for input designs. Sorry, I'm gonna draw the arm here. I'm gonna finish this one. Good. So my brush is too large. So like. What I'm gonna do. So as I mentioned before, like a problem on this one, I'm not gonna draw any articulation for the arm because it looks like the articulation is only on the shoulder. So that's I need to probably think about. Oh, I'm probably gonna add this kind of detail here because then this can be turned into articulation. So I might need to think about it. So yeah, it's like I'm gonna try to adjust this part here. So I'm not going to do that big as I had before because for the design purpose. Sometimes you need to adjust the design for the packaging. So that's one thing that I need to worry about. Sometimes the guys say, hey, Marcelo, our package is not that deep, so be aware with that like when you design the side view. So, yeah. Here we have this. So you see, like you can erase the parts. Like, so that's a really helpful tool. Like back in the days, I usually draw half part and then I erase the half part. But now it's like this one is really like a how can I say like let's just try to define some design spot. Maybe I'm gonna adjust the neck, like the door here. Like you see, for example, on this part of the leg, sometimes the, we need to do. Back in the days, you need to do a pose already. So like if you wanted the leg bended, you like or the knees bended. So we usually like to do something like this. Like we do the leg on the angle, and then you do the foot like outside like this, because you have then already posed. But like sometimes the designers say just need a straight front because then like the sculptor needs a really front pose. So for example, I have this leg here. I have a front view. So you see like this leg is symmetrical as well. So another thing that I can do, I can like I can create another uh, symmetrical line here. And you can create, that's a cool thing. You can create symmetrical lines in angle. Like, so I can do this one, and then I can draw the legs like this. So you see like how then I created the legs, this detail. I know they're not to reflect on the other side, but then like I create for example, I create a reference, like probably here, and then I'm gonna cut and paste. But then at least like the design, for the design part, I can do this thing here, like especially like if you're really quick turnaround, like for like, I need to send this one as soon as possible for because sometimes I can do really the angle like see. I know people, but you are cheating. I think sometimes not cheating. Sometimes like like you need to match what the clients need. Like sometimes the clients need really it's really fast. So you need to find those tools to help your speed up your process. So that's like since since this part is not, then I figure out everything was symmetrical here. So like since I have everything symmetrical, now I'm going to not symmetrical parts. So I turn off, then I start adding the non-symmetrical parts here. Then you see, then I can, I think since this, this I create another layer, so I can just transform the layer like this, rotate, and position again. Then I can adjust like, oh, can form or transform or whatever you need to. Okay. You can, on this case, you can delete the rule or can just, if you click show the rule will not be there anymore. So yeah. Oops. Oh, yeah. So you see, I try to change the just to make a distortion on the leg, but since we have the ruler attached, so I could like distort the leg like this. So that's one thing that sometimes you need to copy or delete the leg. So yeah, so I'm gonna create a kind of reference here, like Control C, Control V, edit, transform, flip horizontal, and then I try to match like. So yeah, I have like something like this. So now that I see him, looks like this feet is not as big, so I can put it here. And I can. So like you see, like I use the transformation tools. So all those things are welcome to do when you design those toys to adjust like for things that are needed. Like see, then so okay, after I have all this, then one thing that I like to do, for example, I'm gonna redraw this there. Oh, you see that that the my roller turned into a green one. It looks like he was deactivated. So one thing that you need to do, like you need to do this third option on the tools menu, like this operation. You click object, then you click on your ruler, and then you activate the ruler again because it was deactivated because I created another ruler. So you can activate it again, and then you can draw again. Like for example, if I wanted to see, I wanted to have my life. Here I draw again, but like I just try to grab some reference, some basic ones, and then see. So after I do this, like then I try to, then another thing that I need to do, like I repeat this one to do the back views. So the back views, I usually grab the front view, do this, and then here I might need to create another one. So another ruler. So I use it. So like I usually go here is like on I can find the center with shift, create another ruler, go to the ruler, showing all layers. And then here I created the back view. Like I don't have the back view real here, so I'm probably gonna create something just for like the show. So like I try to reuse the silhouette, and then let's pretend like try to use the silhouette as guide for me. So like this might be the neck. So remember that I have the door. So one thing that I like to do, since I have the door, I'm probably gonna use another layer to create the door, because then like if I create this door here, I remember that Bumblebee might have a wheel. Yeah. So like I create this part here, for example, and then I can turn off or I can reduce like this. And then I create the design below, like then I keep doing like the body here below, like I have this part here. And then like I think I might have done them several times, so that's why I tried. I might remember the back part here. So it's okay if you guys don't remember. Like I always use a reference, like I just try to make like this one. You see, like I tried to use as close as possible all like the guides that I already have to create the back view. Like these are the hands. So like since I have just like I don't have a full time here to do like, but this is a more this detail part like would take longer than actually doing here. I just try to demonstrate the workflow, so how that things that you use do like be aware that, for example, here you might have some articulation, or sometimes the guys will say, hey Marcelo, can you do a large piece on the back there we need to remove, or even those wheels they need to be removed, so we need to think about like some space, like the pegs might be here, and then you apply the doors, you know. That I oh that's one thing that I like, for example, I create a selection from, that's something that I oh, even this even everything, even the selection you can do like you can mirror when you do this, when you can use this tool like the ruler. So I think that's really helpful, especially for those quick turnaround to see what things are doing. Then I'm gonna finish here. The calf. Okay. Probably have some. So yeah. So this kind of process is you can use for like to design concepts for toys or for video games as well, or like if we create a character designer, even like a character designer for video games. Sometimes you need to add details. So like that's what I've done here. Like then you can like you can group those parts and then like easily remove for the designer figure out like what to do. Or sometimes you duplicated those, then you leave here, and then this one you just like reduce the opacity or change the color and reduce the opacity, because then designer will know, oh, we have something. The sculptor, you know, oh, you need to be aware of this part here. So yeah, and the guideline is used to like, and then now after I have this, I can move to the side view. The side view sometimes, like I mentioned before, if you don't have any restriction from the designer, say, oh, the package is not so deep, so you can go like you start adding those guidelines, and then you start going from there like that. You grab those main guidelines, and then you can create your like you do the side view. For example, oh, that's one thing that need to be aware of. For example, I created a guideline, but all those snaps are still turned on. So what happened? Like if I wanted to draw close by, you're gonna write on the guideline. So you can turn this off, and then you can draw here the side view. So then like you try to, so for example, I think on this case, I might say I'm not sure they're so deep. So like since the toy need to be stable, so this is the hips. So sometimes I like to draw this, or for example, change the color like for other views. Then I can like then I try to figure out the basic design to the figure stand, like so. Yeah, so probably this one is going to stand, and then I might need to talk with the designer to see, can you do this deep or not? And then he said that's okay to go. Then you go. So then I try to figure out where the parts go. Like so, for example, that I rendering this side view here. Like you notice that I did not draw in the arm here because maybe I need to draw the details that go under the arm. So that's another thing that really helpful for the sculptor. So that's another thing, one thing that you can take advantage, or it's really like, then you can really show like your designing skills here. Like you can play around with that. I have done this, guys, so many times on this file. It's okay if you can remember how to draw him like that. So that's why you start to see if you design it out. You see like that. Sometimes you need to adjust some parts. Or like this. Oh, this one here. This way. Then you can try to match on the both sides. Like that's why I like to draw sometimes the back view first, because then I can try to see things that I could match, or even adjust. Like if I forgot something, I start adding and do this back and forth. And then after I do this, like I reduce this one, or I change color, and then I create the arm like over it. So like, so I have all the guidelines here. So I might like gonna create the arm. So like, you can do straight or you can do like bend. I'm gonna do a little bend, just make something different. Like here, if it's symmetrical, you wanted to do the symmetrical rule again, you can do same thing here. Like if you wanted to play around the more symmetrical to go faster, or just to, you can play around with all those symmetrical parts as well. So yeah. And then you can see, you know, like you see how, like I want to match the, oh, this one is too large here, so probably going to reduce a little bit. Just, but then I would provide this kind of drawings, and then like, yeah, I think we're almost at the time, right, Mario? So yeah, I just try to show a little bit the thoughts, and then all the tools that you can use with Clip Studio in order to achieve this kind of design thinking illustration that you're gonna use for inputs for 3D. So that's sometimes the designers for the companies, they ask for. Sometimes they want a style, and then they send the style to the sculptors. So that's like the part that I play here, like try to find a style to help the sculptors, and then we go from there.
Well,
So
thank you so much, Marcelo. We are all paying a lot of attention to your presentation, and we really loved it.
yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. Like I try to I try to be as much as direct as possible to show like all the best parts of the texture that you can use in Adventures to create your designs like faster in a creative way. Yeah. I hope it helps everyone. Like I hope you guys could figure out something like here, like could grab something. If you have any questions, let's do it.
Well, believe me, everybody loved it. We have received tons of questions, but before we go, we want to thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ames Sirway is saying, or she, sorry, thank you so much. This was a wonderful webinar. There's people watching us from, for example, Mexico, like Alejandra, Sarah from
Oh,
Iran, Rick,
hello Mexico.
Boston.
Hola.
Guy, also from Mexico, Andrew from UK, Lee from England, Jennifer, California, Moy, San Diego,
Oh,
Ames,
nice.
Watermill, well, Natalia from Vancouver, I think.
Oh,
So thank all of you who
some
are,
neighbors.
yes, true, you're located in Vancouver.
Yeah.
So let's start Austria, Sarah. Thank you.
Oh,
Let's start with some questions. The first question will be from Sarah Craig. With a detailed character like this, how do you decide which details to keep and which to omit? And this is a personal question of mine. When you start drawing a sketch, do you consider a realistic scale of the future toy?
Oh, that's a good question because we tend to the first time they start like especially drawing characters that already have a reference like this one, this Bumblebee, like has a really has a lot of reference here. I usually try to catch like the main, I would say the main not proportion. I try to catch the main designs, the main part of the design. Let's see Bumblebee here. What's, for example, things that are recognizable from Bumblebee. Like on this case, I would say this one, like this, for example, Bumblebee. I would say I try to see what's recognizable like from him and try to. You see that on my sketch, I grab it like his chest, and then I really reduce it like in order to fit. Like I try to things that are like for example, head, eyes, chest part, and legs, or things that like if you do the silhouette, like if you create a silhouette from this, you can recognize them. Like remember that I did that silhouette studs here. Like that's why I try to see like those elements that show up on the silhouettes are the elements that I can play around, but I still keep them. I play with the proportions because I'm allowed to play with the proportions, but I try to keep it then. You see here on this case, like if you grab the original toy, original character, this chest, for example, on this Bumblebee, this chest will be really small here. His more heroic pose, like his hand is smaller. His head probably is going to be smaller like this to show more heroic. But like when you start doing things for kids, like you can emulate the kid's proportions. If you see a kid's proportion, like his head a little bit bigger than the proportions for his body, you see like Arnaldo in relation to the kids. So that's one thing that I try to play around. But I try to keep the same detail level, but with different proportions. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally.
Okay.
Let's go with the second question. This one goes from JT Barnett. How long deadline will the client give you to produce your sketches for each stage of the process? And also, how many sketches do you usually need to propose?
Uh, Sometimes for example, on this the first stage, sometimes they give you like, for example, 1 week for each process. For example, or it depends on. For sometimes they have Marcelo have something like for next day. What I can do for the next day. So what I can do for next day, I try to divide my day. Okay, I can do some samples that they're gonna need to go back and forth. So I need to adapt my style, and then like if they give me 1 month, I can do one in 1 month. That's not a problem. Then I can do. But if they give me like 1 week, I try to do in 1 week, and I try to do more in a more efficient way as possible. So that's why I like to use those tools. Like, for example, the movie ones, the ones that have more details, like based on movies, because they have a lot of parts in the movie. So this sometimes this one takes more time. So like I would like a realistic way, I would say like 1 week if the guys have time for each stage. Like let's say for the first stage at the first pass of sketch, when I send all those when I send all those silhouettes, I will do the silhouettes in 1 day. Then I wait for feedback. I might have a second pass on silhouettes, so I do another silhouette. Once they figure out the silhouettes, like for this stage that I have for the drawing, I might say like 1 week, or like if I need to detail everything. Sometimes they ask, "Hey Marcelo, can you do the inner part of the the arm or inner part of the legs?" So like you can do like, or if the chest pops out, the chest's open, you can do inner parts you can detail the inner parts of the chest. So that's all things are considerable. So like sometimes you may have, sometimes you have like 2 weeks. Like I remember I had to do a turnaround, like just not a turnaround. I just had to do front and back. I had like a 1 week to do, like between send poses, send proportions and pose. Sometimes the guys, they came to me and say, hey, Marcelo, we already have the proportions. We just need the views. But like to create everything from scratch, they usually give you more time.
Let's see. Here's a question from Siegfried Frank. Dear Marcelo Matere, you are for me a great artist. Your picture, the color for each figure are so perfectly balanced, and they speak to my heart and soul. I would like to ask you for a question. How do I create a figure Raptor as a beginner draftsman? Thank you for advice, dear Marcelo.
I usually like to use a lot of guidelines and basic forms. So like that's the question, like how to create a basic figure. That's am I clear?
Yes, as a beginner.
As for beginner, I would say everything for beginner. I would say like use basic forms. So like you see that I was already sketching everything like really fast, but like one thing that you can do if you're not like if you're not so comfortable yet, like I like to create like basic shapes. So for example, on this bumblebee here, I would create I try to how can I fit basic shapes on those designs. So for this part, I would create from the chest part, like that's a front card, I would create a square. And then I'm maybe gonna do a perspective square because I'm gonna do this for. These are the things. So I would say at first do a basic shapes for everything, like for like try to find a center from the figure and then like quite try to create try to find like structure like with basic shapes like circles, triangles, like you can create this. You see, like try to break like with the figure with basic shapes. Like when I see basic shapes, like structure shapes like this. Sometimes you can create like I like to do perspective, like so I can create some. You can do the arms as, you know, those wood wood toys they have for arts. They have the wood figures. Those are really helpful because then you can play around it then and see how the arms go. So like sometimes I like to create cylinders for arms, especially if I need to do perspective. Then I can do like this. And then for the hands, I like to create squares. You see? Then you can do the fingers, especially for robots. Robots is good. They are good because you can do like you can use the primal figures to play around. So you have the cylinders. We don't need to do the rounded like the human form, but like I would say that like try to use basic shapes first, like try to break them into squares and then add some dips later on, like with perspective. If you're not comfortable with those square perspective, try to do like with cylinders, and then like for the joints part, you use a sphere or a circle, and then go from there. You see, like you can create this. If you grab those wood toys, like they sell in art stores, they are really helpful because they have the articulation, and then you can. I usually take if I usually take a reference, take a picture, and then play with that. Like, but I usually do that. Like I try to make the figure with simple shapes. Thanks for the question.
Marcelo, there are a few kind of laws about how do you uh, apply the rulers and how to enable and disable. Can you quickly show them?
Oh, yeah, sure. Let's do it again here. I think I need to do a really close. For example, oh, that's good because this ruler is not it's in it, not in it. So like we have two kinds, like the way to enable. For example, sometimes if you have a ruler here, let's try to see what happens. Okay, so I have this ruler, he turned into a green. Like if you have your, because when you create a ruler, symmetrical ruler, or any kind of ruler, even a perspective ruler, a guide ruler, a special ruler. So we're gonna do a symmetrical ruler. You created another one. Sometimes you turn off the previous one. So like if the previous one are turned off if it's green. So to turn this one on, you should go to the two menus, the toolbar menus on the left. The third one is called operation, subtool operation. All these are subtool operation. Go to object, and then you click over the green one that you want to change. You see when, for example, it's not clicked, I'm gonna click again here. You grab this one, object, and you click on the green one. You see that those parts showing up. You see they have this one. Looks like it's a turn off icon. So you click again and you turn on. So if you see if this one is working, you need to go up here and see if the snap roller or snap to special roller is activated. If you turn it off, you disactivate it. It's not work. This one is not working. Let's see if it's working. You see, like if I turn this one, it's working. So this one is for grid, but it's work for both. Like if you have a grid, like if you show grid, yeah, if you show your grid or something like that, it's snap to grid. You see. So if I turn this on, it's not snap to grid. So like this one is ruler, but that's a thing that I can use for combination. For example, you can have grid and the symmetrical, and then you can play around with a lot of stuff. You see, like you can create cities or buildings, something like that. You see, that's like even for some crazy designs that you guys want to create. Like, yeah, so for play around with those tools, I would say you like if you turn off or you want to turn off this one, go to object for this subtool, object, and then goes first one object, and then you select, and then you're gonna see an icon will show up. I'll show you up on mine. Yeah, I think yeah, I think I used that one just to turn on the selection, not to turn off. So yeah. Oops. So that, yeah, that's right. That's, hope it helps. Like am I clear on that? Like you guys get it? Yeah. Yeah, so that's how I usually do it for, like I usually use these 3 ones on the top, activate and deactivate it, and then the object. If you need to select your, if it's turned off, you can select again. You see, like you can even turn off by yourself, like for example here, I turn off the ruler. Like when turning to green, you turn off the ruler. So then you go to object and turn on. Yeah. And then you can do for any kind of ruler, this kind of, use this on the top to make them active, and you can turn them on off with object. Hope it helps.
Yeah, definitely. So the invitation is to play around the tools and see what's best for your work. Unfortunately, our time is limited. We'll go with one last question from Robson Felicio. This is a very interesting process. My question is, after a concept is approved, what's the next step? Do you take part of the decisions about colors, finishing? Thank you, Robson. From Robson.
Oh, thanks, Robson, for the. for the question. Yeah, that's a good question. It depends on the client. Like for things that like Bumblebee or like for toy design, sometimes the designers they already create or they're gonna create it's called deco sheets. So there are some they have some they already created because they need to create the colors based on the costs. So that's one thing they're not aware. Like that's something sometimes the designers that hire me, they are aware. So like they sometimes they do the mold of the toy, everything yellow because it's a yellow plastic. So they do everything yellow. And they just do some hints with silver and if they have more money or more budget, so they can go crazy. So at this stage, sometimes they say, hey Marcelo, can you do a really good presentation? So that's why that's the thing that I did on this one, like on this one here, like this one. This was a presentation for the team. Say, hey, this is the product that I want to go. So they usually ask me to color this with this level of detail just for the front one, not the all views. So this one thing to sell the product to the team, to the market, to say this is the what the product that is saying that I wanted to sell. And then like I go to these views, as you can see, like these are the final results for that process that I did. And then like some, you see, like on my idea, I thought that his stomach was supposed to be a clear plastic. So that's, I tried to do that. But as you see on final product, it was silver. So there's a lot of things involved in this, like costs, because for example, uh, the feature on these toys was those blades on his left hand, not his chest. So his chest probably is going to be the I think his chest was the button to activate those things on the. I know what there was a, a lever on the arm. So those things you see, those things change. Like my design has changed for the final product because then the designer, like when I mean the designer is the guy that's managing this toy. He says he's work with the engineer and all the guys to see, oh, the electronics go here or the parts that move us go there. So then they adjusted my drawings to fit better on the final product. So that's not like my design on this. This like I helped the team to adjust the design, the movie design to this. So like it's a teamwork. It's not like a just artist work. So that's one thing that I make clear when we do toys. Unless you're doing something for like a vinyl toys or those kind of toys are a teamwork toy. So like you work with a lot of talented guys that go from engineer, from marketing, from designing the product. They're gonna work with you together and see what you can do, what you can't, or sometimes they ask, hey Marcelo, can you do some colors? Like we have like 3 or 4 colors. That's a really limited palette. So the guys usually do that. So as you can see on these toys, it probably has like he has a lot of silver. The arms are silver and red. You see, there's not a lot of painting. The plastics are molded with the color. So that's one way to save costs or like to do a toy on that budget because all the toys they have budgets. Like if this toy is gonna cost $40, they have a budget to make a toy of $40 costs, final cost. So they limit the articulation, they limit features. So that's one thing that happens with toys. Like they're not like video games that you do a lot of details and then you put on. Sometimes on the toys you need to be aware of all those factors to change. Like I hope it helps.
Well,
I know that I went too far with the toy concept idea, but that's the idea. Like to see if I color or no. Sometimes I color, sometimes not.
no, definitely. And I'm gonna finish with an appreciation message from Andrew Short. He says, thanks for the webinar, Marcelo. It's been interesting to see your workflow, and there's been some great hints on how to make use of Clip Studio feature tools.
Oh, thank
So
you,
with
thank you.
that,
I'm glad for
uh,
that.
thank you so much, Marcelo, for this amazing webinar.
Hmm.
And before we go, yes, please.
I know. I just would like to thank everyone to watching. Thank you for the opportunity for Clip Studio. We really appreciate for that. And yeah, hope you guys could enjoy those tips and do amazing work. with Clip Studio.
Definitely. And just before we go, one last bit of information. Learn more about Clip Studio Paint via our website, clipstudio.net/n and graphicsly.com. Many of you asked, yes, this webinar is being recorded and we'll be uploading it to our YouTube channels, Clip Studio Paint channel and Graphicsly. So subscribe to receive a notification once the video is available. And also to follow Marcelo's projects and career, follow him on his socials, Marcelo Matere as Twitter or X and Instagram, Facebook Marcelo Matere Art, and his website marcelomatere.com. So with that, Thank you so much, Marcelo.
No, thank you guys again. I do appreciate the inviting, and then yeah, I'm glad to help the community. So hope you guys would get those information, do a really amazing stuff out there. Thank you very much, Graphically. Thank you, Mario. Thank you, Clip Studio, for have this opportunity to show my work and show how we do cool toys.
No, thank you for this amazing presentation. Thank all of you who joined us live, and stay tuned for more webinars about Clip Studio Paint, promotions, tutorials, etc. in our socials, Graphicsly. We hope to see you next time. So bye-bye. Thank you.
See you. Bye.